that was definitely that guy from the Randy Newman song. You know, you college boy from LSU, you go in dumb, you come out dumb too. That was kind of the experience I had. Many of my friends, I don't know what we got out of it, but we made it. But for some reason, growing up in Baton Rouge, I just really internalized this whole tribal instinct toward watching LSU sports and LSU football. And I've been telling my son John about we have to go see LSU play down there someday. Okay, and it just so happens they're playing in Tennessee this year at Tennessee, and a friend of mine who has Tennessee tickets got 2 tickets for us. So I'm going to take John, and we're going to come to Knoxville. And I said, John, it's really interesting. He said, are we going to be with LSU people? I said, I don't think so. Probably not. We're just going to be just a rainbow orange. And he said, well, okay. He thought for a second. And I said, it's interesting, though, because Hannah Kitterman's going to be in the band over there. And she'll be marching around the field or whatever. She's going to be participating in the music. He went, Dad, that's going to be pretty weird. Like, how can I pull for Hannah and LSU at the same time? Anyway, that has nothing to do with what I'm talking about. It's just good to see him. But it won't be weird for me. We're just going to hope we will. So, the title of my talk this morning is More Will Be Revealed, which seems to be the only way to operate in life, is to just sit in that knowledge that more will be revealed at any given time. Particularly when times feel uncertain, which they do for all of us now. It just feels really a little disconcerting with a lot of the language we hear coming out of Washington and from people at work. And it just seems unusual to me in very uncertain times. And in my personal life, as I mentioned 3 weeks ago when I came to talk, just as I was coming in, I got a phone call from my mom's assisted living place that she'd fallen and broken her leg. And it's just been a slow decline for her since then. And now she's with the hospice people back at the assisted living place. And we don't know if she's going to be with us for days or weeks. It's just so up in the air right now. And just sitting in that uncertainty has been really challenging and difficult. I mean, it's never easy when you lose a parent, but we also have a long history of crazy family stuff, and that's coming into bear now too. And so I have to recognize part of why I feel a little uncomfortable in uncertain times, particularly in these uncertain times, is an underlying fear. And someone taught me one time that fear is not as complicated as we tend to make it. It really often is about one of two things. And he said, if you tease almost anything that you're afraid about, you'll come down to these one of two things. And it is either, one, you're afraid you're about to lose something you already have. That's threatened. Or you're not going to get something you feel like you deserve. The promotion or the relationship or the job or the house or whatever it is. One of those two things. And so I've tried to kind of tease that out with what's going on now in my family and my mother, and it's absolutely true. And so whenever I am faced with fear, my default response is to try to control the situation and to wring out of it the outcome that I want. It's very difficult for me to let go and just let things unfold. So I try to control people and things. And the truth is, if I step back, times are always uncertain. It just seems to be the nature of life that things may not turn out the way I'd like them to. And that I am going to lose things that I already have. And I'm not going to get some things that I'd like to get. But uncertainty seems to be the equal sign. Uncertainty equals life as a human being. uncertainty. Which puts me in collision course. The fact of the matter is, I don't want to assume things about you, but I think it's fairly human response that whatever you're afraid of, you're trying to control too. So we're all in this thing, kind of like, maybe not as exaggerated as Mr. Magoo, but we're all trying to get life to work out the way we want it to in our way, and it can't help but intersect and collide and cause us to be in conflict. It's like a person I know one time said that he has no problems in life. Life is cool for him. It's just people, places, and things that really bother him. And so that seems to be our reality. Life presents us all kind of opportunities to not be okay, to feel uncertain and afraid. Somebody told me one time a spiritual lesson that I hated to hear, and I hate to have to live into it, and I always want to do it kicking and screaming, but I think the underlying fact is it's true. And that is, whenever I'm upset or agitated because of another person's behavior, it's never them. It's always me, which takes all the fun out of complaining. It has to do with how I am inside, internally, and how I'm able to respond. My son John and I were at dinner the other night, and we were having a conversation about something. He texted me that I thought was a little entitled and a little bit bossy, and so we were having dinner at the Cracker Barrel, and I said, son, I want you to hear, I'm not angry, but I just want you to know how this felt to me, and let's work on this. So he and I were having a very, I thought, healthy, civil father-son conversation. I think he would say the same. And just as we were talking, a young boy, 4 or 5 years old, maybe a little bit younger, and his mom, I don't know if she was a single mom, but a single woman, walked past us. The woman's walking a little bit ahead of the kid, and the kid has a drink, I don't know if it's Sprite or water or whatever, just a kind of clear drink, and he's walking along and drops it. And it made enough noise for everybody to kind of turn and look and see, right? And so here's a kid, you could see it dropped, and he stood there frozen, and his mom turned and looked at him. And she could have really lit into him, and she could have gotten down on her knees and patted him on the back and said, honey, it's okay, don't worry about it. Instead, her response was like this. She kind of postured like this and looked down and scowled at him, and you could just see his shoulders. They just shrank. She was embarrassed. He was embarrassed. And John and I were talking about it because it was interesting to watch that happen, unfold. And a waitress came out, and she saw what happened. And she said, oh, sweetheart, come here. Oh, I'm so sorry that happened. She patted him on the back. She said, we'll get this cleaned up and get you another one. And he stood back up. Oh, man, what a difference. Right? But what that moment captured for me is the reality that it's not the event. It's not the other person. His mother could have responded in any, probably dozens of different ways as she responded to him. And it's a lesson I need to remember when it comes to dealing with family members and dealing with difficult people. I told Jill earlier this morning, it's always one of my things. I mean, the work I do as spiritual director at Cumberland Heights, I do individual sessions, but I also do large groups and teach spiritual principles and navigating 12-step recovery. And one of the things that we do sometimes is I'll have someone, I'll have a rope that has knots in it. It's about 10 feet long, and we'll sit apart, and I'll toss the rope to them, and they'll grab hold, and I'll pull it like that, and they hold on, and it's kind of like you've got a big fish on the line, and you're pulling it back and forth like that. And at some point, they'll let go of it. And when they let go of it, I'll pick it back up, and I'll throw it back to them, and they grab it, and we do that thing again for a little while. And at some point, the person realizes toss it to them, they just let it bounce off and hit the floor, and I pick it up. Pull it back over and toss it to them again, and it bounces off of them. That's pretty advanced spiritual awareness, right? Because my tendency is at the very least to grab it for a little while and then let go of it. Because I've got to make my point, and I've got to make sure the other person understands what my point is and why they're wrong and I'm right, and I'll let go of it. How I respond in any situation is up to me. And when Jill and I talked about that this morning, what I basically said to her is, I teach certain things all week long, and I know it very well, and applying it to my own personal life and actually doing it is a whole different dimension to knowing it and actually acting that way. So how I respond to other people is up to me, but I think it requires three things. I have to be aware of what's going on. I have to be aware at any given moment of how I'm responding. And then I need to stop and take a breath and just accept that I'm probably operating out of a place of fear. Accept that this may not turn out the way I want it to. That I may not get what I want or lose something that I've already got. I need to be aware of it, and then I need to accept that that's the situation. And then, and here's the amazing thing, I need to take action. And inaction is choosing to do something. Action can be not picking that rope up. And so that's where I am right now. Because I've been taught that I get a daily reprieve from my particular brand of crazy based on daily maintenance of my spiritual condition. It doesn't say, I haven't been taught, that I get a reprieve from my version of crazy based on the quality of my spiritual condition. It's on the maintenance of it. Which means if I'm trying to do the right thing, and I'm trying to talk to people that I respect, and so they'll give me feedback so I can see myself. And if I can practice meditation, and I can be well rested, and I can try to practice things like forgiveness and understanding, if I'm maintaining my spiritual condition, my brand of crazy, the volume goes down on it quite a bit. I think the hardest thing for me, most important thing for me to remember at any given time, but particularly at this phase of my own life, because my mother's at the end of hers, primarily because we've lived so long. What's very important for me to rest in is the unknowing of how this is going to turn out. And accept that life has a way of just unfolding with or without my imposing myself onto it. Because I never know, really. Well, I think I do. I never know exactly what's best for other people, or sometimes even myself. And I've shared this story in here this morning, before, and I've shared it again this morning. It's about the Chinese farmer who has a son, and they're the poorest people in the village. They have one horse. They use it to do all the work around their own little small farm, and then they make a little bit extra money using the horse to help other people do their farming. And one particular morning, that horse kicked out the little corral gate and escaped. And now the poor man and his poor son have lost really the most valuable thing they have. And the neighbors came around to say, "You poor men, we're so sorry this has happened. This is awful." And he said, "Maybe it is. Maybe it's not. I don't really know." And they were kind of puzzled by that. A couple of days later, the horse that ran away comes back with 10 more horses that followed it back to the corral. And now, they're one of the wealthiest two people in the village because they have 10 horses. And all the villagers villagers saying, "Oh my gosh, you're the luckiest man. What? Life is great. Life is good. This is the most amazing good thing that could have ever happened to you." And the old man says, "Maybe so. Maybe it is. Maybe it's not. I don't know." And sure enough, in a couple of days later, when his son is trying to domesticate these wild horses, he's trying to break the horses. He's riding one of them, gets bucked off, and his leg is broken. Now he's infirm and can't help his dad, and the villagers say, "Oh my gosh, this is awful. This is the worst thing that could have happened." And the father said, "Maybe it is, maybe it's not, I don't know." Days later, the king's army comes through, conscripting all the young men in that village because there's a major battle they have to go fight. And they have to leave his son behind because his son's leg is broken. All the other young men in the village go off to fight. It's a horrible defeat for the king, and all the young men are slaughtered, except his son, who lived because his leg was broken. That story captures so much of what's a really important lesson for me to remember, which is maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I don't always know. I don't always know if what I'm trying to impose on the world is the way it's supposed to be. I don't always know how things are supposed to turn out. And one of my deepest, biggest challenges is sitting in the unknown. Sitting in that moment between I don't know and oh, that's what's happened, and we'll go from there. Because even when I reach this point, maybe it is, maybe it's not. I guess I conclude this talk the way I started it, because